Anyways, that first Autreat was really, really amazing. And it taught me one very, very important lesson. When you come back home, make sure you have people you can be around that you feel at home with. Because if not, you crash because you've gotten to be in a space with people that it's not so hard. So like, because there's always that crash that comes after spending so much time around autistic people.
Welcome to Herding Cats and other stories from the genesis of the neurodiversity movement.
Let's herd some cats together with hosts Kassiane, Morénike, Renee, and Oswin.
Hello, everyone. This is Oswin Latimer. I am the president and founder of Foundations for Divergent Minds.
Hi, I am Kassiane Asasumasu. I've been doing autistic things for a very long time. I am on the board of Foundations for Divergent Minds, and I have the dubious distinction, or not so dubious distinction, of having coined the word neurodivergent and spending the last nearly 30 years of my life arguing about it.
Hey y'all, this is Morénike and I'm also on the board of Foundations for Divergent Minds. I am a scholar activist whose work is primarily centered around disability justice issues, racial equity, and so forth. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears because like this conversation is making me like super depressed.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, we're sad. I was telling everybody that we're going to be super cheerful today and talk about the most happiest things in autism history.
Well,
and then they asked me if I was being sarcastic, and I said absolutely.
Well, I actually want to talk about some things though. Like I want us to talk about some things related to some of the gatherings. You know what I mean? That have existed. Like, and I know there have been very stressful elements, violence, folks getting stabbed, and whatnot at these things. But I think also like kind of like being around our neurodivergent brethren and, some of those things have been really, you know what I mean? Really powerful, so with like, so like Outscape, Outcome, Autistics Present, stuff like that.
Outscape was online. I forgot to attend it though. But it was like a last weekend or something. So.
It wasn't?
Yeah.
Oh.
I didn't know they moved it to online.
They did it in person, but also had online.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then of course Autreat.
Yeah. My first Autreat, I got to do a presentation at my first Autreat, which was like unheard of. They always encouraged everyone to attend 1 year before submitting a proposal, but I was vouched for. And so they let me submit and they accepted it. And so I talked about my biggest thing that I always go back to, autistic parents and the experiences that we have. Morénike, were you there for that?
So I am probably one of the few people we know that has never attended Autreat because I couldn't handle when I learned that it was at California University of Pennsylvania or whatever, like in the middle of nowhere. Like I'm a city person. I can't be all in the middle of like that just didn't work for me. So, yeah. So I've heard about it, but I've never been able to attend.
Jim ended up arguing with me in the Q&A.
That sounds correct.
Because I was talking about like the child service, higher rates of child service interactions and whatnot, and like the literature that was there. I won't go into that because won't go back to depressing stuff. But Jim actively was like, "No, I don't think that this is real." I'm like, "No, here, these sources." It was quite the experience, and I was like shaking because it was Jim arguing with me. And like, I'm having to like respond
Of course he was.
And like, I was in awe at the same time. I'm like, you're wrong.
Because you started the thing doesn't give you the right to be wrong on verifiable facts.
And
Hi, I'm fine.
this was even before NCD came out with Rocking the Cradle. Like, I had to do some like big diving to find all this information to be able to make the presentation. So it was quite the experience to have Jim sitting there arguing with me because their perception of things didn't take into account having children. They were going based off of their own experience with supporting autistic children with their parents and like their experiences with that as like the thing to measure it against. Anyways, that first Autreat was really, really amazing. And it taught me one very, very important lesson. When you come back home, make sure you have people you can be around that you feel at home with. Because if not, you crash because you've gotten to be in a space with people that it's not so hard. So like, because there's always that crash that comes after spending so much time around autistic people. And it's something I try to remind autistic people of when it's their first time being at a conference together with other autistics and they end up spending their whole time with other autistic people. Like, so you should know you will have a crash after this. You'll go back home and you will crash because it is such a good experience. It is such a calm experience. Not talking about that last year. Obviously not that last year.
Not so much.
Um,
No, last year was a whole thing that happened because people made choices.
if you want to talk about it, we can.
We can. I don't know. We down for some drama?
I'm cool with
Spill that
drama.
tea.
Morénike, are you cool with drama?
Shall I pour some tea? All right. So the last treat, which some people have convinced themselves that I set out to destroy it, even though, like, why in all the hells would I do that? We have to invent new hells just for me to do that, and I don't even believe in hell. Anyway, so everybody in the entire world approximately knows that I have photosensitive epilepsy and audiogenic epilepsy, right? This is news to like 3 people. None of them are on this call. And Autreat knew that. Multiple people had my emergency plan because, you know, preparation is good. Multiple people had my other emergency plan too. Like, I was real prepared. Everybody knew this. So we were in the shared kitchen. Oswin was making some food with chicken because you have to bring your own protein to Autreat if
You're not a vegan.
you can't do, yeah, if you're not a vegan. And some of us, our bodies don't really recognize like plant protein as proteiny enough to get through a week. Hi, I'm some people. So, okay, we're in the kitchen and Oswin is making chicken and pasta, and that's great. And this person and her daughter, they need to turn on the TV. Not only do they need to turn on the TV, they need to turn on the subwoofer. And they need to turn them on as loud as it will go. And they need to keep them on as loud as they will go. Okay, so it is rude to leave the person who is making your food, right? Like, you can't just let somebody cook for you and just walk the hell out. That is impolite. You cannot.
And let's be clear. Let's be clear. I wasn't just making for me and Kassiane. I was making for like a group of us. There was
for like everybody.
Right.
Like 8 people.
Like I can make big meals, so I made a big meal.
There were it was like a bunch of people. So, okay, this individual whose name I absolutely remember had to have the TV on, like, and had to have the subwoofer on. It was a requirement. It's like, okay, no, I'm gonna need you to turn that off. No, I don't want to. Well, no, it's an access need. You need to. Somebody turned it off, which was very kind. Again, I know who that was too, but I don't know if they want to be named. And then they turned it back on and somehow managed to turn it louder. There was a physical altercation about not being able to watch TV for 15 minutes, okay? I had multiple seizures. Then, you know, there's a meltdown because these people are trying to kill me over 10 minutes of TV. And maybe they weren't trying to kill me, but they certainly weren't trying not to. And then, okay, oh yes, and it's okay for her to do this because she's a board member of Autreat. Not the person turning on the TV, that was her daughter. But the person who's authorizing this, she's a board member of Autreat, and therefore it's okay. And then we had the hours of gaslighting. Okay? Hours of gaslighting that night. I did eventually get some chicken and pasta. Thank you, Oswin.
You're very welcome.
The next day, I did not want to leave my room. Imagine that. Hours of gaslighting.
Reasonably not wanting to
Yeah.
leave your room.
People brought me food. I asked Phil Schwartz to see to it that I got some at home, and he's like, I don't know if we can do that. I'm like, oh, that sucks. But he at least sort of listened to what happened, unlike Jim. Jim can never talk to me again, please and thank you. It was great. People came by my room, brought me food. That was nice. Then Jim comes in, like 5 minutes before I'm supposed to give a presentation on autistifying your habitat. And there's the gaslighting and the everybody is expecting you. I have a very good autopilot because, like many autistic people, I have CPTSD.
Honestly, I have to push back on that. Everyone was expecting you to not speak. And we were being told that you would be speaking. And like, from my circle of people that I was around, I was like, I don't see that they'll come to speak. I don't think that they'll come to speak. I'm like, that would be reasonable. They've been having seizures and like all these meetings and everything. And like, I was expected to keep myself separate from all of that because
this was 2013, right?
It was work time. It was not social time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
So like it was work time. And so I was expected to not like be involved in that and involved in all of it. So like of the people that I was around at the time, we were all pretty much convinced that there was no reason to expect you to give the presentation. Yeah, it would suck, but also it would be completely understandable.
You came to my room and like everybody's expecting you to give your presentation. You have a presentation to give. Are you going to give it or disappoint everybody? And again, I've got CPTSD. I have a real good autopilot and I gave my presentation. And yes, we are dropping the F-bomb here. And, I was triggered 7 ways to Sunday. I went home and then, and then there was an incident report that was full of lies. And the Autreat email list was full of a whole bunch of personal attacks and heckin' nonsense. And yeah, did you know I set out to destroy Autreat by being epileptic in public?
I mean, clearly because you have such a strong record of destroying other conferences that have nearly killed you.
Right. That is the only conference that has nearly killed me that I have destroyed. And there have been multiple conferences that have nearly killed me.
Like, that's the thing. Like, no, it's because we're a small community and like the gaslighting about whether or not you would have a seizure from that. I'm like, no, we all know this.
Like, no, literally all you needed to say was, I'm sorry. All you needed to do was say that I'm sorry and then not put in a but or a string of gaslight. All you had to do was apologize and not do the thing again. Yeah, hi, I'm gonna die. This is in the category of things I have elected to die mad about.
Yeah, seems reasonable to me. I hate that it happened, and I had a very different experience with the situation than you did, obviously, because one, no one was following your safety plan.
Mm-hmm. And that is not entirely true. Mandy was, Alyssa was, and a couple other people were.
Somebody didn't grab your bag. I remember distinctly that you had to come back in for your bag. I'm like, that was not supposed to happen. Somebody was to get her back.
Mm-hmm.
And because that's part of the safety plan. I still remember.
Yes. So somebody has to get that so that I don't have to. Alyssa was kind of body blocking, so they're forgiven. I mean, yes, I was not mad at them. People who were trying to help me are, thank you. I love you all. If you're listening.
Yes. Sorry. It was just one of those things like no one's following the safety plan, and I can't follow the safety plan because I can't let the food burn because everyone's needing to.
Yes, it was the whole thing.
And after all of y'all left, the mom kept on like trying to get me to like see her side of things.
Uh-huh.
And like, My autopilot is also really good from the CPTSD, so like I was still able to
Uh-huh.
continue cooking and listen to her, but I really couldn't engage with her because you're wrong and I can't do that right now because I'm cooking this meal.
Well, I mean, she only spent 3 hours telling Jim that, she is the victim of the situation where her daughter was going to have to turn off the TV for an hour at absolute most. It was like 10. I don't even know how long it would have been. It would have been like
Probably like 30
15 minutes.
minutes,
I don't
maybe 30.
30 minutes. Oh no.
Because like I was
However will
halfway
she
done.
survive?
Because
We
I
got a
was,
subwoofer.
yeah, like we were all, everyone was talking in there. The TV being on didn't make any sense from a sensory standpoint, anyways.
Hmm.
And if memory serves, there was another TV they could have used.
There was. That was not the only TV in the building.
So, yeah, like all of this was like levels of not okay. And that is why the conference no longer exists because too many things went wrong.
Hmm. But everybody's blaming me, and they can. Okay, if anybody who thinks that somebody on SSI spent the kind of money it costs to fly across country to wreck something, no,
Makes no sense.
no. I don't even have anything funny to say about that. Just no, you are wrong.
The thing is that we need more things like that, but to be done well and to be done right.
Hmm.
And I like, there are a lot of things about Autreat that were always kind of not great accessibility wise anyways. Like
Hmm.
the fact that it's in the middle of nowhere.
It's in the middle of nowhere, and if you need animal protein, you need to bring your own.
And like a lot of the rules that they made to try and keep people safe also didn't do a great job of keeping people safe. And like they
Hmm.
just continued to add on more rules instead of considering like the overall structure of the conference. Anyways, I have my complaints about Autreat from that perspective, but I
Yep.
do miss spaces where autistic people can be together
Yep.
and
So there was.
learn from each other and talk to each other and just feel at home.
Hmm. For a couple years, there was a very small one called Haven. It also had the middle of nowhere issue and the nobody had heard of it issue. I actually got a personal invitation to it after I wrote about Autreat, and it was lovely. It genuinely was, but also I like the woods, so your mileage may vary, and I don't think it's a thing anymore. It was really chill and small, and I enjoyed that a lot.
What is happening with Odd Space? It's Odd Space,
Hot
right?
space.
No, I think that
I'm not sure.
something happened
Do you
prior to
know, Mourning?
COVID. I'm not even going to pretend like I remember. But I wanted to say this. I wanted us to talk a little bit about like the original communication badges because I think people are familiar now with the way they're used now. They've kind of evolved over time. The way red
Oh,
meaning don't communicate with me, don't come to me unless I come to you. Yellow meaning if I initiate conversation with you is fine, and green meaning come up to me. But that's not what they originally meant. You know what I mean? And most people don't know the original ones. So I think it would be kind of cool to talk about that.
mhm. Yeah, 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 I agree.
So the communication badges, when they started, I believe they were only in green and red.
There was still yellow, I think.
Well, originally they did not have yellow. They added yellow later.
Oh,
I've
interesting. That's something I did not know.
I have gone through and read the history of ANI too many times because I
I
have.
learned something. This is exciting.
And so, like, m- when people use them now, it a lot of people distill green down to I am open to talking when that's not what green means. Green means I have trouble initiating. Can you please speak to me first?
Hmm.
I wish it would go back to that meaning because it means that nobody initiates with me because they are
I
expect.
also wish it would go back to that meaning for the same reason.
It would be lovely. so that people would talk to me. That would be cool. And then yellow is don't speak to me unless you are on my approved list, which is not what is now. Now people have taken it to mean, please only speak to me if you know me. And I don't like that one. I don't like the way that it's changed there either, because there are people I don't want to talk to when I'm in yellow that I can't. And like, I don't want to have to say, just because you know me doesn't mean that you can talk to me right now.
You don't know me. It's just in the kind of way I need to know you when I'm on yellow. Go
Correct.
away is not something that I have the bandwidth to say when I'm on yellow.
Correct. And it's going to come off rude, and there's nothing we can do about that. Because I'm on yellow. There's a reason I'm on yellow. And then red is supposed to mean, or was always meant to be, please don't talk to me at all unless it's an emergency. And when we say emergency, we mean actual, like, physical harm that could come to you if you are not spoken to.
Yep.
So, hey, there's a car coming. Get out of the way.
Honestly, if I'm on red and there's a car coming, it's better to just move me and apologize later. That is very me specific, I think, but yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. I tend to turn red on before I get to that point and use it preventatively.
Oh, it's just the auditory processing is gone by that point. And you're going to say, hey, car, and I'm going to stare at you, and then the car will be there. And then I'll process, oh, car.
It's
So
so
just better
fascinating to me how it has
Yeah,
evolved.
makes
Because
sense.
it's like, so
Um,
initially, you know, like you were saying, green was, hey, I'd love to talk, but can you initiate? You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and whereas now people just see it as, oh, okay, they're expecting you to come talk to them. You know what I mean? Like type of thing. Like green just mean, you know what I mean? So it's almost like the meanings have shifted considerably. When, you know, with yellow, most people don't know about the list. And I've seen people who are on red, but they're still talking to people. They're just, no one's talking to them. You know what I mean? Whereas before red meant, you know what I mean? Like no communication. It doesn't mean that someone is not going to come up. Like, for example, if they need to know where a restroom is, and if they're on red, they're going to, if the person who's on red asks you, you can tell them where the restroom is, or you can point it out or whatever. And that's not harming them because that's an access need of their own. But it's just so interesting how they've changed. And I'm wondering what, you know, why or when that started to change, because I feel like it was different. Oh, okay.
I mean,
I
I
have a
know
theory.
exactly when it changed. I know exactly when it changed.
However,
It was when ASAN started putting it out. It didn't hold on to the meaning when they started putting the stuff out.
interesting.
Yeah, that happened 2014 probably. So yeah, we also when we also saw when they started using it at the Brony conference.
I saw them at other nerd conferences that were using the incorrect but almost meanings.
Yeah, and that came out of ASAN, because even we we also had the simplified explanation for ACI, I think, as well. I would have to go back and look at files to confirm that, but I'm pretty sure that it was a simplified version so that it would fit in the manual
Do y'all
easily
remember the
that we gave
first,
everyone.
or I guess like conference, symposium, gathering type of thing, that not one that, you know, by autistic people for autistic people, because we tend to kind of like work to accommodate ourselves. But the first one that I guess maybe was mainstream or maybe inclusive of us, that had like that built in some of the accommodations, like, you know, asking people to kind of keep the, you know, like about warning people about like scented lotions and perfumes, or having a sensory room, or having a quiet room, like, because I feel like that was still something that was kind of radical and hard to obtain for a while.
Well, I know
Oh
that
gosh.
BronyCon was the first one that did it.
Yeah, like
So,
autism
as far
conferences,
as are you talking
disability.
about autism
Yeah,
conferences,
whichever. Yeah.
Morénike, or just conferences in general?
Oh, autism
Okay,
conference.
so I went to Autism Society of America for the first time in I think 2004, 2003. One of those years. And they did have a separate quiet area. And yet everything else was a disaster. Let me see. We're going to see if I can find the history of where Autism Society
I'm
of
so
America
impressed.
conferences
Even though
real
I know
quick.
there were other issues, I'm impressed that they actually had it. Well, the
I
quality
know
of
them
it.
in
Matt?
2000.
Oh, there were so many issues.
So
There's like a subscription.
they also had a quiet room at the 2009 one that they had here in Dallas. The problem with it was that the quiet room was next to the escalator, so it wasn't actually quiet. It was an escalator sound that you were hearing throughout the time that you were in there. And the chairs weren't that comfortable. I want to say in 2013, no, 12 is when they had actual sensory rooms. Like
Had them before that.
they did. I know that they
Mhm.
didn't have a sensory room in 2009. I just remember 2012 that there was one. But I didn't go to the conference in between there. 2012, they definitely had it because Flag House, is that the name of that therapy?
Yeah.
Yeah, they set up the room. And there was another room around the corner, I think, at that one as well. That was also, I want to say that year, or maybe 2013 was the first year that they did the communication badges at ASA.
So when I was like young, went to my first ASA when I was 19. Is that right?
So 2001, 2002?
2002. Wow. Okay. Somebody let me drive through a storm in 2002. That's a thing that happened. Okay. I may have been 20. The point is, I was too young to make that decision, and yet I did. So the thing we did my first couple of years I went was rather than there was a quiet room at ASA and there was a quiet room at MAP, which is a terrible name for an organization. It stands for More Advanced Autistic Persons. We're all embarrassed now, just having heard that. Also, ASA was much larger, so it had a really good, but also really awful exhibit hall. So the thing to do when you needed a STEM session at ASA was not to go to the quiet area or the sad thing that pretended to be a sensory area. The thing to do was to go to the areas that were selling therapy toys and sensory toys and ask if you could sit on their dizzy disc and try to break it to prove that it was robust. And one year, one of the things also had this thing that was like big old inner tube around like this tall cage thing, and you could stand on the inner tube and you could hold on to the bars and you could jump.
That's
That
fun.
was a really good time too. And one time there was a swing, the thing to do was to go and be a demonstrator of all of the sensory toys. Now, I also look very young for my age, so I get away with a lot. But yeah, that was the makeshift sensory room, was the sensory toy vendors.
That was
I
awesome.
still want a dizzy disc. I'm telling y'all now, it's this thing that was kind of like those sit and spins they have for kids.
Uh-huh.
It's like that, but faster.
Ooh, I don't think I could do that, but it sounds like it would be fun for you.
Yes, it was fun for me, and you could kind of control how fast it went. Oh, and I also had this thing called like a steamroller. It was, those things that they used to use to squish all the water out of laundry.
Yes.
It's like that. You could crawl through it, and I got somebody to sit on it while I was crawling through it.
That sounds kind of like
the
the Temple Grandin squeezing thing. Like, oh.
It is.
They had one of those too. The squeeze machine they had one of those too a couple times. They were like selling those or selling the plants or something. The squeeze machine is sideways, which I do not like. And this was, it squeezes you from the sides. It's like a V and it compresses your sides. And I'm gesturing and nobody can see me because the camera angle is wrong. It's steamroller, you crawled through it, so it was squished on your front and your back. And then you could get somebody to sit on your back, and they would look at you like, okay, so this is an autistic person showing our product, I guess.
Do you remember the hoodie that had the air compressor and you turned it on and it squeezed you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I do.
I want that still so much. Oh, That would be
Mm-hmm.
amazing to have. It was just it was
Stay Puft Marshmallow hoodie.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I miss going to conferences. I need to go to more conferences because I like finding or autism conferences specifically because I love the vendor room. The vendor room is the best.
Okay. So, yeah. Okay. So there was a lot of quackery in the vendor room the first years I went before they got
So
a
they
new
had
president, but
hyperbaric
there was also a
oxygen
lot of
chambers.
and
Yeah, I believe it.
yeah, they
Uh-huh.
did. They had an
Yeah.
actual hyperbaric
Mm.
oxygen
And did
chamber,
they have
and they
the
had like this
miracle whatever
infrared
medical
sauna
solution, the
Yes, that
partial
too.
bright bleach?
I
Yeah.
No,
no.
Yes.
Miracle Mineral Solution is after my
Oh.
time, but they had digestive enzymes and they had about 1,000 supplements.
Like you had to pass like there's only probably a good quarter of the vendor room that was really fun to be in. But there was also a
But it was
quarter
really fun. And it was a big room usually. Oh, and sometimes you could actually get really good snacks from the people who were trying to sell you gluten-free food. And yeah, it was gluten-free, casein-free food that was predicated on erroneous assumptions about autism. But also, those were some good cookies.
I
Like,
remember
if you're going to give me a free cookie, I don't care.
Thanks for listening to Herding Cats. If you like what you hear, please like and subscribe. It really helps us grow our community with your help.